Uganda has a huge demographic dividend with over 80% of our population as young people, and most of them are unemployed. And so with this program, we like to showcase young people who are succeeding and achieving and thinking outside the box to create enterprises and innovations in order to inspire and motivate young people to also follow in their footsteps and succeed and grow our economy and defy the negative stereotypes that are often associated with our youthful population. And tonight we unfold a young lady called Aisha Ali, who started an organization to support young people with financial literacy skills and leadership skills. And she's going to be telling us what she does and how she does it. And I'd like us to welcome Miss Aisha Ali.
Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, we'd like to know who you are, to unpack.
Yeah.
When people see you, who are you? Yeah. And then we can get into the other aspects.
I'm a certified financial literacy trainer with Bank of Uganda, and I am the team leader of iProfile Foundation.
Okay.
That's it about me in a brief.
Okay. And what's iProfile?
So iProfile is a social enterprise that was started in 2015. Basically, it focuses on child empowerment programs with emphasis on leadership, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. And we work with primary school going children. So under the 3 thematic areas, we basically have leadership, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship.
So when you say it's a social enterprise, is it a profit-making entity?
Well, no.
Okay, so you're like a foundation, a
Yes.
non-profit.
Yes.
Okay. Because our main understanding of a social enterprise is that it's a profit-making entity that operates for good.
Well, we're venturing into that.
Okay.
Yes, but let's start.
Okay. Yeah. And you only serve primary school going children?
Yes, but with response from different head teachers, different parents. Personally, I end up having conversations with people outside the primary sector. The fact that I'm a certified financial literacy trainer, I mean, even adults were struggling with our finances. So I sometimes go for career talks in secondary schools, but also have one-on-one conversations with adults in regards to how they can manage their finances well.
Okay. And when you say you're a certified financial literacy trainer, what does that mean? That you studied like a bachelor's degree, or did you just do a short program on financial literacy?
Yes, with Bank of Uganda.
Okay.
Yes, I'm certified.
Okay, so sort of like a training of trainers.
Yes, training.
Okay. And what was your motivation to start doing financial literacy?
Well, with Africa at large, and there's a lot of underlying factors that poverty causes, and the fact that we're overly dependent on aid, the fact that Uganda is one of the most entrepreneurial countries but with the highest failure rate. I sat down and said, okay, there's a gap and it's something that needs to be done. But basing from my personal story, I must say I was privileged to have school fees paid on time, have pocket money, and my dad would always, I remember I used to love junk and going out every Sunday to the playgrounds. And you'd always be like, but sometimes there's food at home, you don't need to go out all the time, you need to, start planning ahead. So the first time I went to boarding, he gave me 50,000 shillings, and I told him, I don't think this is going to be enough for me. And he was like, but you have everything in your suitcase, you have water, you have all this. But, it's now that I'm realizing that these values are making sense to me right now, because he opened up a bank account for me in my primary 4, and I had a piggy bank where I would keep coins and all that. So the fact that you're a child and you're growing up, you have very many luxuries, you want, you have so many needs and wants, toys especially. But the fact that I didn't have access to this money in my bank account because I was still a minor. But after my Form 6, when I realized that, you know what, okay, now I am growing old and I need to do something. And it is with this that I had money to start up the enterprise. So I looked at it in a way that, how about, because I love children personally, I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews. My brothers and my sisters are all married and they have children. So growing up as a child, I also had a soft spot for kids. But with no clear strategy to give back, I realized, why don't I use my funds, and found an enterprise that will be able to help children. I mean, it sounds ridiculous when I tell people I'm teaching kids financial literacy, and someone will be like, that is way complicated. But really sitting down and talking to these kids, breaking it down for them. So we have a current campaign dubbed the KoinDream Challenge that is aimed at inculcating a saving culture within the children. So why I really started this is, you see, even for us to be able to have more job creators in the country, we need capital. As entrepreneurs, one of the first needs we need is capital. But how are we going to get that capital when you're 25 years old? When you're 22 years old, where are you going to start from? The first thing, maybe you're going to want to start up a business, and then you have maybe 5 friends, and then all of them are unemployed, maybe one has a job, but he is not stable. So you realize it's going to be a hassle for you to get the startup capital. And also with the fact that very many businesses are failing, I think people are not exposed to these things at a tender age, especially with entrepreneurship, with the mistakes, with the, there are mistakes along the way. But now when you grow up, you're going to have this whole trap and you end up giving up. But if it's something you've been doing for a while, because we have kidpreneurs in our program and they sell out their bracelets, and sometimes they don't sell, but they know it is okay, it's part of business. So really, my starting of the financial literacy for kids is, I want to see entrepreneurs that have their own capital, that have the right mentors to give them sense of direction on what businesses to start on. Because you realize people start businesses because of maybe peer pressure, because of influence, because this has worked for my neighbor, it should be able to work for me. And many of them get this money through debt. And you realize unemployment levels are very high. You've seen graduates, first-class people with first-class degrees, having the brain drain issue, going to wherever to work as maids just because of money. And you realize, even as girls, mostly it affects the girls. Sometimes, I'm not trying to be feminist here, but the girls are more prone to the effects of poverty. In line with, you find a little girl in maybe primary 7, in her adolescent age, and she is being lied to, and before you know it, she's getting pregnant, she's getting HIV.
So do you have a specific focus in your trainings on women and girls?
Just last year we launched Her Money Matters, that is basically targeted to inspire and empower young girls, give them hands-on skills that will be able to free them from the bondage of poverty, over-dependency, and unemployment.
Okay, and I think it's a great idea that you're starting, especially with young people, children, because, I mean, if you can train them up with those skills, then it's more likely they'll have them as adults and practice them. And our society doesn't usually encourage entrepreneurship. It actually doesn't at all. The narrative is go to school, get a job, get married, then die somewhere along the way. And many people who start enterprises are thought of as, maybe people who have failed to make it in the formal economy and so on and so forth. Which, in present day, is outdated. What worked in the 60s doesn't work in the 21st century. So I think that's very commendable and a great idea. So please tell us how far you've come since 2015 when you started, and now 2018, 3 years down the road. What has been the experience like?
Wow, it's been a roller coaster. And why I say a roller coaster is because there's always this saying of an expert was once a beginner. And I remember having lots of fears. I'm quite someone who loves perfection. No, okay, close to perfection. And I kept telling my brother and my mentors, I think we'll launch this maybe 2016 when we have all the curriculums animated. And like, I always had this fear of starting out. And I must say, being a leader is not something very easy because you need to garner professional skills in terms of concept writing, reporting, different responsibilities that come with being a leader. And the fear of who will come on board as partners, because you're starting out. Usually people want, how long have you been in existence and all that. So in 2015, my mentor and my brother, my mom, really gave me that support, my dad as well, and my friends who volunteered their time. So the first thing we had to do was I visited my primary school and I talked to the headmaster and director as well, asking them to enable us talk to the kids, specifically the prefects for the leadership program, and the financial literacy program is open to the whole school, and they agreed in just one talk. And the second one was quite a difficult one because I had to visit, I don't know if you read through our profile, we also work with refugees, the iMigrant program. So I had to walk into Inter. There's a lot of, Uganda, first of all, being a home to a large refugee population, but lacking the extensive support in terms of hands-on skills because they're really overly dependent on aid. But God forbid if that aid is cut, what happens to them? So I must say I usually have a soft spot for helping people, and the fact that the different I don't specifically work with Somalis. There are very many tribes. There are Congolese, there are Rwandese, there are Eritreans, and I believe, or I hoped that if we're able to inspire them and equip them with different skills, they're able to be self-sustaining. So basically, that is it.
Okay. And how many people have you reached so far?
So I'm still telling you, so when I reached the refugee agency, I had to meet the executive director, who was a very tough woman. And by that time, I must have been about 21 or 21. So I had to walk to her and tell her, this is what we have on table, and we want to train the migrants. And I had to write a bit of a profile. I sent her an email, and in 2 days, she responded. She gave us free space, but imagine starting out something, you need to invest. So we had to do branding, we had to give transport refund to the migrants because it's something that is usually given to them. We had to cook food, we had to get facilitators. But the facilitators, much as, because they were my friends, so I did not have to give them transport refund. But really, it was a very intense, you're starting out, it's a whole new experience.
And where did you get all that money?
My dad, my family, my sisters, my brothers, my friends, myself. So it was a collective effort.
So you have a strong support network. I
have a strong support network. So 2015, we reached out to 25 prefects at Jack and Jill, and that was our pilot for the leadership program. It usually takes 2 months. We focus on leadership, etiquette, and legacy. And you realize as leaders, there's a bit of lack in especially self-expression, the roles and responsibilities. I was a head monitor in my primary 4, and you see, it's quite weird that I'm actually talking without blinking or hesitating, because I used to be a very shy, reserved girl in school. So I realized, why not teach these kids how to speak at a tender age, how to learn their roles and responsibilities. All I knew about leadership was maybe becoming a president of a country someday. But I did not know the nitty-gritties of servant leadership, what my roles were, how to conduct meetings. As a prefectorial body, how do we set goals and actually have results? But then even etiquette, you realize that we need a bit of mannerisms. especially with a few things like maybe keeping time, self-organization, a few things like saying please, sorry, excuse me. And I usually give this example to people that imagine two people who have a first-class degree and they're both applying for a job maybe at the UN. Yes. Both have very good marks, very commendable universities. But between, let's call them A and B, and A knows the job he's applying for. He'll actually know how to write his own CV. He's looked through what job he's applying for. He knows what value addition is adding to the company. They told him to come at 8 a.m. He comes maybe at 7:30. And why I'm trying to bring out a few pointers is now maybe the second one could be from a well-off family, and he knows that regardless, I have the good results, so I can walk in anytime. Maybe he'll go for the interviews at 10 a.m. And just because he has the first-class degree, he feels like, he's made it in life and he can get any job. But drawing back to this, between the two, like this one, maybe the second one, the CV was written for him, or he just copied and pasted, which many of the youth do. And it's simple skills that we need to get employed, even in the interview section. So the one who went at 7:30 has had a feel of where he's going. He knows what he has to say. He's been there before time. There are certain values that, the first impression is always the longest. So there's certain values people look at. And now this one who comes at 10 a.m. will talk rudely to the askari perhaps, or the receptionist, and will just walk into the door of the HR. And these are impressions we're leaving. So between A and B, definitely it's the A who's going to get the job. Firstly, for keeping time. Secondly, maybe his appearance is smart. You don't need to wear expensive things. You just need to have a neatly dressed. You need to just be neatly dressed. And maybe this one, perhaps it was a Friday and his hair is messed up. Maybe he has some ketchup on the shirt. So really, character is really, really wanting in the world of employment, or even as CEOs and entrepreneurs, because we need to be role models to our employees or our teammates. Now, in 2016, we had the first edition of the KoinDream Challenge. Remember, we have 100 children from the different schools coming together to converge for the finale. You must be wondering why the KoinDream and all that. So usually it runs for 4 months. The first month is basically teaching the kids the basic lessons on financial literacy, which is money history, the evolution of money, spending, goal setting, budgeting, saving, and etc. But in a child-friendly...
Is it residential?
We usually go to the schools, but now we have a summit coming up in December, and sometimes on weekends we have some parents who bring the kids to us. So every week we go twice to the schools, and so the second month we introduced something called the Kidpreneur program, because we realized most of these kids, some are from different family backgrounds. Some have the money all the time and some don't. So we teach them basics. I have some in my bag, maybe I'll show you later. So we teach them how to make basic bracelets. Some make a bit of necklaces, others make tote bags. These are things that can be done by children and during their free time. So there's no way it affects their school education. So when we teach them the skills during that time, then the third month we give out saving boxes on the same day to all the participants. And we create a 60-day challenge for them to put in coins, of course with the supervision of their parents. So you realize most of the time, even us as adults, we usually want that extra push or discipline. So we give them boxes and we keep the keys so they're unable to open. And then on World Saving Day, which is 31st of October every year, all the schools converge, open up their boxes, count their coins, and you realize with the power of so many coins, it's just one coin, but over time it multiplies. One coin can multiply to 10,000, to 20,000, to 30,000, to 40,000. And I am proud to say that one of our ambassadors, who is one of the current KoinDream Challenge ambassadors, has about 1.5 shillings, and she's in her primary 7.
1.5 million.
Yes,
She must have rich parents.
1.5 million.
And what did they use this money for?
So on the finale, during the finale, while they open their boxes, we have a partner bank, Bank of Africa, and we have these accounts opened up for the children. So it's not just a one-off thing. Our vision for this is to track these kids till they get to 18, and then we'll have business mentors attached to them so that they have enterprises.
So they don't use the money immediately?
No.
Bank of Africa takes it and then
in their bank
keeps
account.
it for them.
Yes.
Maybe until they get to 18
Yes.
so they can use it.
Yes.
And the kid was 1.5 million, maybe we'll have like 150 million. Okay, that's good. So you said 10 schools in 2016. How many schools in 2018?
Then this year we're actually crossing borders. We're
Okay.
launching in Kenya. So in 2017 we reached out to 320 children. We also went as far as Sembabule district. And to my surprise, it was one of the most amazing experiences I had because I had to teach in Uganda. There were some terms that we had to tone down for the kids, and because their English wasn't that good, so we had to switch to the English. And I remember it was just supposed to be a one trip, like we go and come back, but we reached a bit late, and the distance between the three schools, oh my god, like we left the car at one of the schools, so we had to get a border. And I remember I kept telling the driver, are we almost there? And he's like, no, do you see that hill up there? That's where we're heading. And it was so dusty, but I really loved the experience. So when we reached the schools, these are kids that are very, very humble and are very listening, and they have very amazing visions and dreams, because we would listen to what they would say. For example, there's one of them who said, I want to have like 30,000 in this period of time. Then we gave them a bit of extra time, not 60 days. So with the 30,000, I asked him, what will you do with it? He said, I'll buy a hen, and then when I save again, I'll buy a cock and a hen, and then they will lay eggs, and then I'll start selling the eggs. And it's very intriguing that these kids usually fetch water to get payments of 200 shillings, 100 shillings, 500 shillings. And one of the things we kept insisting is that you don't have to save the whole 500 shillings, and you do not have to wait to get 10,000 shillings to start saving. It's that coin that counts. Even if it's a 50 shilling coin or a 100 shilling coin, each time you keep putting, it is going to multiply. And I must say right now, some of their boxes are half full, others are full. It's just the timing and the inspiration and that hope that you give them that all will be well, with you being financially empowered. So 320 schools, 320 children in 2017. So this year we are doing 20 schools in Jinja, 20 schools in Kampala, and about 6 in Kenya, which makes it a total of 46 schools.
Okay, and how many districts so far?
So far, just Zimbabwe and Jinja, but we already have focal persons for our expansion plans in Kabale, Gulu. We also have Fort Poto. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you make that 10-year plan. And how do you finance all this, going to the schools? 4-month program, that's a lot of work. Who pays for that?
In 2016, like I told you, I called my friends, and these are people who are very selfless. We have about 30 volunteers now who use their own transport to actually come and teach the kids. But in 2017, we were privileged to get a grant from the US Mission, and that financed our programs. Going forward, we have Bank of Africa on board this year, so we're able to pay our trainers and all that. So, yeah.
So you're doing well. All right, congratulations. And besides that, what other achievements can you point to that you've gotten over this time?
Personally or?
As an organization? Both.
Okay. Recently, I won an award, the Women for Women Awards. I've been able to do a United Nations Protection of Civilian course in Kenya, and right now I am doing. I started one with National Finance Council, which will get me certified internationally in terms of financial literacy. So yeah, I am still quarter way of my journey, and I'll get there.
What have been the challenges? I imagine there should have been some, you know, along the road.
Well, leading people is something not easy. See, we have 5 different fingers, and so everybody reacts to things differently in terms of promptness, in terms of professionalism. And I must say, we are all amateurs whenever we are starting out. But when it comes to having people keep time, having people be prompt, responsiveness to emails, and sometimes you get disappointments along the way, because most times maybe you want partners to come on board, and then maybe they keep tossing and turning you around. But nonetheless, you don't need to give up on whatever you need to set out to do. And it's one of the things that sometimes you have to sleep late because you need to get things done. And the fact that trends are changing, so sometimes you always have to constantly learn. And I must say, the workload becomes too much for you sometimes. Remember, most of my friends, some of them are employed, others maybe at campus. So the timing, so sometimes I'll have to, much as I am the team leader, doesn't mean I need to sit behind closed doors and in front of a laptop in an AC office. So you'll find me going to train at school. I have to meet someone else. But thanks to God, and thanks to the selfless people out there and my team that has been very, very supportive for all this while, we're getting there and we're getting better. But just that while the numbers increase, we need more human resource, and it's very few people that usually do voluntary work. So those are one of the challenges we have.
Okay, and you've talked more about financial literacy, but you said you also have leadership and other categories. So please tell us a little more about those other categories.
So with the leadership program, it basically targets the prefects in primary schools. And like I mentioned to you earlier, growing up as a head monitor, I never used to speak in assembly. I didn't know my roles and responsibilities. And you see, leadership is one thing in ethics. So that is why under the etiquette category, we teach them how to, even food, how to eat food. Like basically how to set up a table, not to talk while eating. You know, as a leader, you need to emulate great values. So even with having a timetable under the etiquette, words like please, excuse me, sorry, but most importantly, the legacy that you're leaving behind, especially with our people skills. And most times as leaders, we feel because we have the titles, because we are leaders, we need to become dictators on people. Yet our sole purpose is to serve. So teaching these kids that at the end of the day, you have roles and responsibilities that you need to accomplish. And as a team, how do you work together? Because you realize even with, I think even in workplaces, most people face it. Or maybe you have supervisors, and the type of language you use to your subordinates might be harsh in a way. But sometimes to get things done, you need to learn how to tonate and use a bit of professionalism. So we basically teach them servant leadership, we have child-to-child exchange programs where we take them to different other schools. Sometimes they donate items, and really basically grooming them in basic leadership. Yeah. Then under the migrant program, like I said, Uganda is a home to a large urban refugee population, but they lack extensive support. So we're opening up a center, a skills center in Kisenyi, that is going to focus on English language, computer skills, and sewing, a bit of sewing, and basic cookery and also photography skills. So one of the most important assets as a human being would be, what skill do you have that can get you out of a certain situation? Just because your background or your story or whatever it is that happened should not deter you from becoming a better person. And sometimes maybe we have hidden treasures. Like similarly, the acorn that usually that has the latent potential, and kids have greatness within as well. But even us as adults, we have that uniqueness, and see, just like we have these fingerprints, everybody is gifted uniquely. There are things you can do, Martha, that I can't do, and there are things I can do that you can't do. But together we can do amazing things. So getting them out of, most times the factors that deter our progress, be it conflict, be it family, be it education, be it stereotypes, if it's religion, should not be deters to our progress as people. And each time, the more you help, the more you give, the more you get. So we want to change the narrative of refugees or immigrants being overly dependent, but also having that reliance and being able to do something on their own. So yeah, I'm quite excited about this project because as an organization, we'll have a platform where we help have them share their entrepreneurial journeys, their different stories, their transformation, and also have, most of us say, even as in terms of saving, yeah, you'll find someone who will tell you, you know what, Aisha, I can't, I need to wait for this awesome or heavy paycheck to start saving. But what we forget that it's not just because you have a paying job, just because someone else doesn't mean with the little you get you cannot save. So we're going to open up it's more like a seed fund circle for them, but for them after the 6-month program they'll be able to borrow and have no interest, so that they're able to have startup capital, but keeping it in mind that they have to pay it back, because you realize when you put everything on a silver plate, people take it for granted. So we need to also show them that, you know what, you could do something on your own and you can thrill. Like you've seen, there are different people that have made it. Some are immigrants, others are not physically able to do things, but they're doing really, really amazing things. So I believe that there is no excuse for foundation. So regardless of our ethnicity, our religion background, we need to strive to do better. We need to use our potential. We need to learn. These 24 hours everyone is given, and time is one of the greatest assets we have. And if you misuse that time, you'll get misplaced. For example, if they tell you have to be here at 6 and maybe you come at 6:02, and maybe in those 2 minutes you would have gotten an opportunity, but because you have this mentality of, oh no, Africans don't keep time, or I can go anytime, you might miss out on an opportunity. So really, timekeeping is one of the things I would urge very many youth out there to use their time wisely, because I was 10 years old once.
And 10 years from now, besides getting to 112 districts, what else would you like to achieve?
Well, 10 years from now, given the fact that our alumni are now in S2, I'd want to see young entrepreneurs starting up and being able to create more jobs. The fact that our unemployment rates are ridiculous. And we hope to have 1 million bank accounts opened for children. Yeah. And hopefully we will have an academy where an incubation hub, where kids can come and learn and explore their talents. Yeah, basically.
And maybe you have some multi-billionaires. Okay, do you look up to anyone or any people, any role models?
Oh yes, I look up to my dad, my brother, my mom, and my mentors. But to highlight, I really look up to Oprah Winfrey. The fact that she's a woman and her background and the fact that she has been a hard worker and despite the odds of her past, she's been able to achieve. So yeah, my brother, my mom, my father, my sisters. So basically, even sometimes I look up to young children that really inspire me in a way.
The ones who saved 1.5 million.
Even the ones that saved the 6,000.
And what do you think sets you apart?
Well, I'm not someone who gives up. I'm not someone who gives up. And I'm someone who constantly I'm an achiever. If I set myself to do something, I have to get it done by hook. So I'm one person who is very persistent and committed to what I start.
Let's have your final words.
Well, my call or my humble plea to the youth out there who have amazing ideas is don't procrastinate. Start where you are with the resources you have, and along the way you will get better. But remember, it comes back to you. Your commitment is key. Your professionalism is key. You need to garner skills. You need to be passionate about what you do. Don't do things just because it's the era or it's the trend. Think about time as one of your greatest assets and use it really, really wisely. But not forgetting that you need to start saving like now, because for any business idea you have, for any venture you want to start out, you're going to need capital, and it's going to be very hard for you to get a loan out there. Before you start out anything, make sure you have researched about it, you've gotten advice from different mentors. Don't stop learning, keep learning even when you get there. No one is always perfect, we're always a work in progress. So yeah, be humble in what you do and do your best.
Right. Thank you so very much, Aisha Ali, for honoring our invitation and for sharing your very lovely story. And thank you very much to our viewers. We hope this will inspire you.